Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to DKM Episode 4 team. I'm here joined by my very, very good buddies, Kenny and Daniel. All right, guys, I wanted to talk to you guys specifically about gaming companies and certain companies that try to do gaming. They don't know what they're doing, and they really, and I mean really, screw up. We all know about Stadia just recently closing down their first-party studios, gaming studios, and I'm not sure what your opinion is on, you know, you're streaming for games, but I feel like it's the future. But just Google had the opportunity to really grab gaming by the balls and just take it into a new future, into a new area where gaming could just be, just you could play it anywhere you want as long as there's a decent connection, and that would have been great. But they really screwed the pooch on that.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure I said my take on the whole game streaming thing. From a technological side, I think that we're still pretty out there yet. I think the game streaming is still a few miles apart. I want to say even a couple years apart. Not because just the internet infrastructure, at least here in America. Here in America, believe it or not, we have some really outlandish, ridiculously draconian ISP offers here versus compared to countries like in Asia and in Europe and things like that, where there's more options, more better service, in my opinion. But meanwhile, here in, like, for example, Miami, you only have two ISPs at most, and there's no other options really you could have. But in other countries, you have way more options, and because you have more options, there's more competition and make the internet better. Plus, my also thing is that I am terrified of the lack of ownership when you are just depending on
Right.
streaming. Now, streaming not only just includes like video games; it also means like media streaming. Your movies,
Right.
your music, and things like that. Like, if you have a Netflix account, sometimes if you're like me, if you really like a movie, you would go and own it physically, so you have it always there available to you. But my worst case scenario is like, what if a movie or game comes out that's only on a streaming service, and what if we get a situation like Stadia where the service goes out? Now we lost that game or media for the rest of time.
You could say the same thing with Steam
Right.
or even Game Pass. You don't own the game, but
True,
Yeah.
but at least with Steam, you can make the argument that at least it's downloaded on your hard drive in some way,
Same.
shape, or
right.
form.
Yeah. Same with Game Pass. You can download it and it'll be on your hardware.
Right, and let's even look at it like this though. Like, we got that Scott Pilgrim versus the World re-release, which I'm still waiting for my physical Switch copy to come out because I love that game so much. I bought it
Hmm.
twice. I wanted to get it on PC to play it now, and I bought it, and I went ahead and I spent the extra like $30 to get a physical Switch copy just so I own it permanently in my possession.
Well, I
So,
hear Todd Howard just screaming at you right now.
uh, I guess Todd
Yeah,
Howard.
yeah. He wants you to buy more Skyrim.
More Skyrim.
I don't know. Yeah, more Skyrim.
10-year-old game. I swear they're gonna release a 10-year-old version of the game in this year, because it's
Oh,
been
like an
The
anniversary?
anniversary edition.
Yeah, that'd be
probably.
cool. I mean, if they redid the graphics, but they already had a special edition, so I don't know.
Well, the special edition was just for DLC. They do that for like, oh, get this game of the
But you
year.
guys forgot about the new water shaders.
Oh,
Huh.
I love it
Oh.
how you have to go into the mod community, like even with the console version of the of Skyrim, or its special edition on the Xbox One and on PlayStation 4, where you can access mods. And there's one of the first mods is, hey, here's a mod pack that fixes all the issues that Bethesda normally has in all of their games, with whatever engine they actually run their games with when it comes to Fallout and Elder Scrolls games. And it's legit the more popular mod pack because it's the one that everyone downloads to fix all the buggy issues. Uh,
Imagine a studio might be stupid enough to release an always online multiplayer game that uses the same buggy engine that you can't even fix because you're not allowed to mod it.
Oh
Wouldn't that be
man.
fucking stupid?
Fallout 76, PTSD coming
Yeah,
back.
right?
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, though. The same way with Stadia, how Google had an innovative idea with cloud gaming, and honestly, again, I'll say it again, it is definitely the future, especially since we have 5G. I know some people have some contentions with 5G does this to you or that to you when it
Because it causes the pandemic and bad things happen.
right. So
Yeah,
look,
I've heard that more than once.
it's something that, like, I honestly don't care about when it comes to 5G. I personally don't see the appeal to 5G in my experience, because honestly, even with 4G, not even LTE, I can do most, if not almost all of my stuff that I do on my phone anyways. But 5G seems nice if you're like maybe right before on a flight you want to download like what, two movies that you're interested in watching or something on Netflix. Yeah, I get that. That I understand. I can respect the 5G for that. Um, which is why I think cloud gaming would excel if like, hey, let's just say you have a Verizon plan for 5G, and Google Stadia is like, hey, we want to do a deal with Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, who cares, and say if you get this package, you get this package for so Google Stadia as well. And it does seem like an optimal future for gaming, but it seems that uh, when it came to Google, one of the biggest companies out there in the world, really messed us up with gaming. I know Microsoft had a cloud gaming thing. I'm not too sure. I don't know too much about it. I had a coworker at my last job who told me about that, and he was quite enjoying it. He was playing Assassin's Creed. I forgot what game during his lunch break. On his phone, and I'm like, oh, what is this? And they go, it's the Xbox. I forgot what it was called.
Oh, xCloud.
XCloud. There you go.
It
XCloud.
comes with Game Pass.
There you go. That. And he was enjoying it. He was genuinely enjoying it. He obviously, him being a much older adult than I was, he knew of the drawbacks, and all he cared about was just playing his Xbox on his free time at work, where we had two 15-minute breaks and a 30-minute lunch break, and he was just fine. He was just chilling. So stuff like that, it's a lot more convenient when it comes to just playing on a laptop or something like that. But it's a shame that they've screwed this up. Same thing with Bethesda. I was looking forward for a multiplayer Bethesda game. Like, I know Daniel says that,
Yeah.
hey, like
No.
they're single player games. They're obviously not gonna. I'm not looking forward for them doing a multiplayer game. I see the argument for that, but I was optimistic. Same thing with Cyberpunk 2077. I was optimistic, hoping it did well.
Right.
Obviously, we know the story of Fallout 76 and
Yeah.
and Cyberpunk, but I could see your argument on that, Daniel, and I could agree with it. I genuinely can.
So my thing about it is, it might suck that, all these people are being, so what's happening is with all these developers is they're being transferred into different portions of Google, so they're not losing a job,
Well,
first
that's
off.
good.
Second, the lead of Stadia, I forgot her name. Anyways, she left the company completely and moved on. But another really good thing about I want to say Stadia, I think they're selling like their technology
Their
to help.
patents.
Yes.
Oh, so
To
like,
help other companies like Xbox and Nvidia, because Nvidia is also doing the cloud streaming. I think that cloud streaming in general is possibly at least 5 years ahead of its time. Kind of like how PlayStation Vita was ahead of its time, and the PSP Go was ahead of its time.
yeah, but they sort of.
But more like at a bad time, because the PSP Go
Yeah, but the
was,
PSP Go
was a system that came. It was a system that came out that didn't have a CD drive when at a system that was already in its last legs.
But it was an all digital console. It was one of the first.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Yeah,
And
yeah. I
then
just
they
think that it should
decided
have
to
been.
come out with the Xbox SAD because SAD, it didn't have a DVD drive, and then they came out with now the all digital PS5 and the Xbox Series S.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I just thought like the PlayStation PSP Go design otherwise, I would have been down with it because like that's what I wanted to do with my Switch. I wanted to go all digital.
Yeah.
But the problem was with the PSP Go was that it was a all digital system at the last legs of the PSP, and I remember that fucking catastrophe that was of trying to get all digital copies of all your physical games.
You sit there and you look at the Vita and you say, wow, the Vita could have succeeded had it been in the same territory, maybe an updated one, but it could have been if it was in the same territory as the Switch, it would have had a competitor. They would have been against each other head to head.
Oh yeah, I think the Vita was pretty
The Vita
cool
was
for
about
its
5 years too early.
Yeah.
I just think it was more like that Sony like dropped the ball way too much. We're not only just dropping support, but also doing a lot of dumb shit that didn't help sell their system.
Yeah, and I
You know,
mean, like a lot of the
proprietary
games
memory
were
cards aside.
really, really poorly optimized, and yes, the memory cards were atrocious. But
I mean, and it was just that appeal. It was like I could like, you know, like you said, that it was kind of like the Switch beforehand. That like the Vita, for the most part at the time, I could safely say it was a pretty damn close to console gameplay on a portable screen, and
yeah.
mainly was because it actually had a second analog stick. I think. Did the
Oh
Vita have
yeah,
a
it
second
did.
analog?
It did,
Okay.
and it had, instead of doing the clicky analog sticks, it did the back touch pad, which that's probably where it kind of fell flat a little bit.
I just think that
Yeah, I
And
forgot that
with
existed.
Nintendo Switch, Nintendo's releasing a main console, which obviously had a lot more support, both when it comes to consumer support and also with development from the actual company support. The Vita the Vita was, if I were to make the argument for competing with certain portable consoles, obviously we had the Nintendo DS that was out, but the Vita was also competing against the PlayStation itself. There was more development, a lot more focus on the PlayStation itself, and the Vita was basically just like, hey, let's just release this and make a quick buck. That sort of feels like the mentality and the spirit they had behind it, obviously because of how much support the Vita got compared to the PlayStation, which honestly, there are times when I'm playing my PlayStation and I feel like Sony doesn't even care about the PlayStation 4 before even the PS5 was in talks about being released. But it's
I mean,
just
they never updated
their
their
U,
UI.
dude, the freaking
Like
UI. Look, I just
the
recently
UI is
watched the
7 years old, 8 years old, and it's
dude.
still the exact same.
I will just
Since the
I
PSP.
recently saw a video on what was it? Someone playing Modern Warfare 2 on the Xbox 360, and he was laying prone behind this one dude who was sniping prone, and oh my gosh! So
He sent them a message.
he sent him a message. How quick it was to send him a message. He went into the lobby. He found this dude's name. He opened up his profile, sent message, dude. For that to it happened, what, it took him like 15 seconds to open up everything to start typing a message. If you were in PlayStation, you try to do the same thing in game, it would take you 2 minutes because the UI just
Oh yeah.
lags behind so much. I'm trying to send us what was it, a friend invitation in Cold War to someone who's playing zombies with me in PlayStation, and it took me what, like 30 seconds for me to open up his profile just to wait another 30 seconds to click on add friend. It's just so bad. So I just feel like
Yeah.
Yeah, I found the video. I'm looking at it right now.
the Vita had just the PlayStation in general didn't have the same support, or just in general as compared to these other consoles. Like
Yeah.
that's one of my biggest gripes about PlayStation is the speed of their UI. When I go back to Xbox, I'm just thrown back on, like, I'm just amazed on how quick it is to navigate things just by pressing the home menu. It's just so frustrating because
All
it
right,
seems like an easy
guys.
thing.
So breaking news.
Uh oh.
Nintendo Switch dropped a SanDisk 128 gigabyte micro SD card,
Wait,
labeled with Apex Legends on it.
didn't it? Wait, so is this just like a promotional thing?
Yeah, it's just branded, which
Oh,
means it's more expensive.
Nice.
Oh, it's $30.
Yeah,
That's
it's
not bad.
I bought
Uh,
like I bought a 200 gigabyte micro SD card for my
yeah, I got a
Switch.
256.
I think I have 120.
Yeah, I forgot that Apex Legends is coming out on the Switch. It's been such a long time.
I know. Oh, but
Now
but
that the new season's coming out.
I don't think I could play
you know,
Apex on console, dude.
Oh fuck no.
Mainly for
No,
FOV.
absolutely
It's
not.
mainly the FOV. That's my
That too,
concern.
and
I just wonder what it's gonna run like on the Switch.
Uh,
at least it'll be portable
Pure
though.
Will it
ass.
look like Fortnite? Will it look like
Fortnite wasn't that bad on the Switch, honestly.
Will it look like the original Xbox One version?
Was it bad?
Well, I played it on the X and it looked like doo doo.
Oh, I didn't. I never played Apex, so I wouldn't know.
Um. So there's also an update from the H1 case issue that I had told you guys about before.
Oh, the computer case, with the
Mhm.
grounding issues and shit.
Yeah. So they sent out nylon screws, right? And,
Right, yeah,
and
you
a
did
lot of
say that.
people think that they were placeholders. So I got my nylon screws and I installed it. shortly after I had gotten it. Apparently, there's a 12-volt plane that goes around the screw hole, and
Kenny,
this
planes are too big
what?
for 12 bolt, you dummy. Come on, airplanes are way too big. You can't fit that in your
No,
house.
but there's a copper plane that just goes all the way across this PCB, and it goes pretty much right up to the screw hole, and the screw is too big for the hole itself, so it digs into the PCB instead of being copper plated,
So they
and
messed it up
connected to
again.
the ground plane. So people like Steve at Gamers Nexus, he did two videos. He lit one PC on fire and then was able to do it again, but instead of lighting the PC on fire, he was able to salvage the computer and then send it to NZXT, which in turn the CEO got involved and sent out a message saying that the nylon screws were, they thought it was a long-term fix, but now they're realizing that a metal screw can be put right back in the exact same spot and cause the same issue. So they're sending out PCIe riser cables to everybody that's already ordered the nylon screws.
Stuff like that, especially when it comes to even video games, which is just all software, for like digital releases and just all that, it just makes you wonder how some of these things escape like people.
QA testing.
Yeah,
QA,
it's
Yeah.
just
exactly.
it's just like okay, I'll I
Well, look at
don't
the
know.
Xbox 360, should we?
Well, I mean,
Yep. That was a fucking train wreck.
yeah, the same thing with Xbox One when it was first advertised as you were forced to stay online, you're forced
Oh
to
yeah,
have to
the
connect
active
on.
The have
DRM.
connect.
Yeah, that whole thing was just nonsense. But what I'm talking about is like something like this, something small like a screw. Like I don't know their QA process, but like how would they recreate this issue or create this issue before they release it? Because obviously you're when you
Well,
release
the
it to the
riser
public.
cable was sourced out to a different company, so when they received it, it already had pre-cut holes, and all they did was just drill their screw into that PCB. Well, the screw was too big, so I guess it hit once it hit revision 1.3, which are the newer ones. They started to realize that they were catching fire, and that it was easily like done over again. Like it was easily rep. How would I put it?
Rep. Be able to be replicated.
Yeah, they were able to replicate it multiple times. So they, the thing is like with the way that the PCB is set up, it looks like it's an OEM version of it. Like they can take it and put it into a different PC and it'll work with whichever one that they're selling it to. Anyways, they're sending out a new riser cable to everybody because of this issue in particular. I mean, it's neat that they have, the pre-bent cables and it's pre-installed, but the moment you start taking out the screw and putting it back in, let's say to reseat it or whatever the case may be, um, it's gonna start causing issues where it like this 12-volt plane is gonna touch this metal screw, which is gonna ground to the case instead of the PCB, and then that's where you're having the issue.
I'm not sure if you guys ever. Maybe it's just me being nihilistic or just pessimistic overall. But whenever I hear CEO gets involved, I just don't know what that means. Especially in
Well,
my.
he's also the owner. He's like the founder, the owner, and the CEO
Oh,
of the
okay, then
company.
that's different. Because I usually when I think about CEO, I just think this is the person who is put there because the board of directors are like, yeah, this guy's cool. Let's put him as a CEO. Normally, when they came to that, in my field of work, when it came to me fixing the things I was fixing, obviously the mechanics and I are trying the best we can. And then when the customer complains, and then that our manager, but my boss's boss gets involved, we just look at it as like, okay, we're gonna tell you the exact same thing that happened, but I feel like it's what do you call it? It's just more chefs in the kitchen. It doesn't feel like it's fixing anything. But since he's the owner, then that makes a little bit more sense. Maybe I don't
Yeah,
know.
he cares for his
Or it's gonna
company.
be,
That's the thing.
or
He cares for it.
it's gonna be like that thing with South Park where it's like, we're sorry,
Oh, with
sorry.
BP and the oil spill, yeah. But
Yeah.
that's the thing though. Even you can look at any company, just any company in general, when it comes to their PR, that's the exact same excuse that they use for everything because it works. It actually works. You just say, "Oh, we're sorry that this happened. We'll make sure it never happens again," and people are actually okay with that. They just want the company to respond to something, even if it's formulaic, even if it's whatever. You can just copy and paste the same apology, the same response to something negative, and all these companies have done it before when they screwed up. It it's obviously
Hmm.
formulaic, and people just want that response. So
I think what it is, it's like what you said. It's all about the response because people think that like companies are like this faceless, don't have a representation, uh, entities. But
Right.
clearly, with social media and things exist. Like you get called out on Twitter, you usually get called out on Twitter, then someone has to say something.
right,
Even if
Yeah.
it's anything, like you could go on the microphone, and just rip a wet fart. To them, the fact you acknowledge it means something.
right. I think more than anything, when people say that, oh, at least you're talking to a person, or it feels like there's someone behind there. I get it. I sort of understand it, but what matters most is not just talking to someone, which is why I don't really like those automated machines where it's like, oh, can we assist you with this? Please say this or say a phrase, and I'll try to help you. Like I honestly don't like it because all of their options sometimes don't apply with what I have questions for,
Yeah,
and
that's why I say agent.
right. So like all those just formulaic just apologies. It's whatever, but at the end of the day, some companies look at their cost. What was it? What's the word saying? Cost benefit analysis, whatever. Yeah, something like that, where they say, is fixing this issue more expensive or cheaper than dealing with the lawsuits, um, or
Oh
dealing
yeah,
with the
yeah. That's how
backlash.
they. That's how these all these companies work, though. Is when it starts outweighing the price of lawsuits is when they'll go to fix the issue.
Right.
But that's not the right way to work these. Like the right way to work it, even though that's the way that they do it every single time, which is what would happen with the NZXT case. Once they realized that there was a bigger issue and that Steve at Gamers Nexus made it a bigger issue and it was much wider of an audience, they
Right.
had to do something about it.
I've
Right, because you brought attention
I've
to
said
it.
this in the previous podcast where if I release 100 phones and one phone has an issue, you have a 1%. That's bad, right? But you have 99% of it. That's good, and you'll hear just one guy complaining. So it's a volume issue where if I release the phone to 100 million people, and the 1% are faulty, you have 1 million people complaining. Not only that, maybe one of these people are maybe they're a streamer, a YouTuber, and they have influence over their audience, and they just say, "Hey, go." They don't actively say go complain, but obviously you're watching this person, you're watching their YouTube video, you're angered that they aren't the only person who's having this issue. You're seeing another 1 million people with the same issues, so it creates this whole this big bubble that's actually not it's inflated, it's overinflated,
Hmm.
which is why I think that sure it's bad this happened with the cases, and I'm not saying it's not an issue. My issue comes with where like you can even look at Cyberpunk where they delayed the game and the developers got death threats. It's the response to the community gives to the company. Now let me play the other side on that. When the people don't act this way, when they don't act viciously to the company for screwing up, they're slow to respond. I've seen this many times with multiple companies where the people don't complain at a higher level or a more emotional degree than other people who have complained with other issues with other companies, and they take their time with it. But when it becomes a little bit more fiery, the complaints are more, I want to say, more bombastic. It people
Yeah.
the company responds faster, especially
Yeah.
if it hits their stock a little bit. They just really work on their bottom dollar, which is why I wanted to add
Yeah.
to the comment.
Exactly.
I wanted to add your comment, Kenny, where sure, it's nice in theory to think about the consumer, but these guys have to meet a quota. These guys have to meet their bottom dollar. It is what it is. That's how corporations work. You need to make that money. You need to make that bread.
It's even like into the point where like Nintendo's even said to themselves like, no, Joy-Con drift isn't an issue, but
Yeah.
it's like Well, if you go on Twitter or anyone, everyone will tell you like, yeah, I've had to buy like 3 Joy-Con sets because I have Joy-Con drift. And then how did Nintendo fix it? Oh, well, you have to call this number, and then later you find out later that because someone called Nintendo's hotline, they found out, hey, they're offering free support for it, but Nintendo never announced it,
Oh
and
wow.
not initially. Someone had to, be the messenger and let everyone know about it, and then Nintendo had to be like, okay, yeah, if you have issues, call us. Like, well, why didn't you just say that from the start? I get it. It's because you don't want to pay for everybody to get a new Joy-Con set, but if you guys are willing to do it, you should have just announced it, you know?
I think more than anything, it's a. You can even look at Nintendo, who makes amazing games, first-party games, the success of the Switch itself, and how they're really implementing a lot of this innovative stuff. But when it comes to their certain business practices, it's just like two sides of a coin. It's just light and dark. It's just crazy, especially with this whole. We've brought it up before with the Smash Brothers community, with Melee and them doing
Hmm.
what was it, a cease and desist to Slippy. It People got angry at that, but they still support Nintendo games because Nintendo games are unique. They're innovative. They're fun. They're nice.
I've always say that Nintendo make great games, but they're not a great company as far as like PR goes.
Right.
Like they're really outdated and really draconian. So I've like you said, it's two sides of the coin. I look forward to their games. I think that they make great products for the most part. But when it comes to the company themselves, I wouldn't say they're horrible, but I would say they're pretty out of
Let
touch.
me let me let me say something to Kenny. You remember Halo 2, Halo 3 days, how much motion, how much momentum Halo 2 and specifically Halo 3 was. How great it was, how basically just shaped a
Oh yeah,
generation of gaming. That
it really did.
that was really when not only it wasn't so much about it being on the Xbox 360, it's just the game itself and how much dedication the devs were on this and how they were listening to feedback. Things that
Yeah,
were
from Halo 2 to Halo 3.
basically how much they
Yeah.
kept much of the same from Halo 2 to Halo 3, but how much they innovated, how much they improved on it. And then you could see from there, from Halo 3 after Halo 3 no, after Halo Reach where Bungie just left Microsoft, you could see the difference between Halo 2, Halo 3, and then Halo 3 from Halo 4. It's just wow, it's night and day where
Wasn't Halo 2 like really rushed though? So like that's why I had like kind of that cliffhanger of an ending.
I'm not sure on that.
Um, Halo 2 was made in 11 months
Oh, really?
Okay.
Like development?
because they had to
Yeah.
make all brand new engine. Yeah, it was made in
Right,
11
because I
months.
remember like the Act Man doing like when he was doing the video series on the Halo
You know
games,
what's funny is
or
I've
maybe it
been
might be
watching Ackman videos here recently, like all of them.
um I think, or it might be Nikki Jakey's video, but he was talking about how like the first showing of Halo 2 was all smoke and mirrors, like the engine wasn't like the game wasn't gonna look as good
Even
as
though
like the
like
release.
the first showing of it was Sergeant Johnson saying it's not smoke and mirrors, it's not
Yeah, the irony.
it's gameplay, it's real gameplay, which it was,
Yeah,
Some of
but
it. I like the game
no,
though.
but
it was real gameplay. You know, they were playing on the Xbox, but
but it wasn't going to be like that in the final
yeah,
product
that
though.
wasn't going to be the final product. It ended up being the
Like it
smoke and
was a
mirrors.
game, but it was all
Well,
smoke and
the issue
mirrors.
was is that they spent so much time making that demo that they didn't have enough. Like they realized their resources on the Xbox needed to be
Oh,
toned down, so they had to remake the engine.
same thing with
And then
Anthem. Same thing with Anthem. You
I
guys remember
know,
Anthem?
dude.
Jesus Christ,
Yeah, we all forgot about
dude!
Anthem.
They spent so much time on the trailer, the demo, the gameplay reveal, and like a lot more development went into that than most parts of the game, and it's just sad. It.
It's almost like they want to sell
Oh
pre-orders.
yeah, you're right. Wow.
Well,
Man,
well, we're talking. I mean, Halo 2 wasn't well received when it was first released, but in retrospect,
Really?
yeah,
It
the
wasn't.
multiplayer was. But like a lot of
Oh,
people
okay.
were very upset about Halo 2 when it was
The only
released.
thing I knew about Halo 2 was the fact that the ending felt very cut. And there was a reason why I brought that up because was Halo 3 supposed to be like I don't think it was supposed to be the Swan song,
So,
but it was meant to.
like here recently, they made like somebody actually visualized what the ending of Halo 2 was supposed to be.
You're sending a link.
Like, I can. I need to find it.
I really enjoyed Halo 2's campaign a lot, more than the first one
Mm-hmm.
because, well, I'm a masochist. It was a lot more difficult than the first one, and there's some parts of it that are a lot more difficult than the third one. But I think overall the third one was a little bit more difficult, or at least the most difficult campaign I've played on the Halo game. Um, but the game was nice. And much like Super Smash
Yeah.
Bros. Melee were, the game, if anyone doesn't know why I'm bringing up Melee specifically, especially with Slippy, I'll recap. Melee came out in 2001, and the main Super Smash Bros. Melee tested, has just stayed relevant because of the competitive scene, because it's a game that's easy to get into, but it's hard to master. The amount of stuff that you need to know how to accurately implement it into your strategies, into your fighting strategies. Melee was rushed. Melee was buggy. Melee was pushed hard, and the creator Sakurai was crunched. The development team was crunched just to meet the GameCube release date, and the game came out. Sure, it was still buggy and it was just fine, but the game is still being uh, praised to this day competitively when it comes to the just the scene in general, because of how the line where it separates the casual players and the skillful players. People still play this game because of the amount of mastery that needs to be behind it, the amount of dedication, the love for the game. That we're almost 20 years later, the game is still relevant in the competitive scene. Whereas if you see other previous games, other fighting games, where it's like, hey, let's the moment a new version, like let's just say Mortal Kombat X, we go to the next Mortal Kombat. The last one is now irrelevant because, hey, we got this new game. Halo 2 was rushed,
Yeah.
but I love that game so much, especially the campaign, that maybe it might be my nostalgia goggles on. So just take my words with a grain of salt, but I felt like that game felt a lot more innovative when it came from Halo
Right.
1 to Halo 2 compared to Halo 2 to Halo
So
3.
had they done the original Halo 2 game, like the way it was intended to be,
Yeah.
Halo 3 would have been solely a flood game. Like it would have been the peak
Flood?
of flood outbreak.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I mean, it showed like in the storyboard gallery, it shows you like all the events that would have taken place throughout the campaign. There was parts that were cut out, like the Juggernaut flood, and the way that Master Chief was supposed to board that Covenant cruiser at the beginning of the game. Um, he was supposed to board it instead of coming back with a bomb. He would fly through space, land on the Covenant cruiser, and then infiltrate it and destroy it from the inside.
All right, but that
Right.
scene was
So
pretty cool
that's what I
though.
was asking. Was
And
the
it
reason why
was
I brought that
probably
up was
supposed
that
to be a mission that we were able to play
Oh,
instead of
okay.
it just being
um
like a cutscene.
wasn't the reason why I brought that up was that because Halo 2 was such a rush game and the story was felt like kind of a cliffhanger. Was Halo 3 supposed to be like the continuation,
Yes.
like how originally was supposed?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I get.
But it was supposed to be the other half of Halo 2. They still never ended it
That's
the way it was supposed to be.
because they had to make a new game with
They had to change
as
they
well.
changed the whole story pretty much. As
Gotcha.
they were making Halo 2, they were making the cutscenes at the same time. And as they were making the
Oh,
cutscenes, they were making the script and they were making the multiplayer. They had a separate team for
they had
multiplayer.
they basically had to fit the pieces as the pieces were being made. At
Yes.
Oh,
once.
I see.
It kind of reminds me how like Resident Evil 2 was in development, and Resident Evil 2 is a very fascinating development. And there was like the leaked alpha of the game, but basically what happened was is that they had like all the pieces where they like certain aspects of the game they were working on up to that point, but they didn't like the whole package. So what they had to do, like they had to swallow that pill and said, fuck it, we have to start all over. Even though we're like 40 to 60% done, we have to redo the game because the game isn't going to be how we want it to be done.
Right.
But they still took over some of the older elements from the beta and the original design, and then they redid it again when they made the final game. But it's an interesting thing to be like, what if scenario.
Why
You
was
know?
Halo 2 rushed?
I told you
You
that
mean
they
market?
were focusing mostly on that demo that they were going to show at
Oh,
E3,
okay,
and then
right,
they
right, right.
realized that the engine didn't work on the Xbox, so they had to cut the engine. They made a brand new engine, and then started making the game 11 months before launch. And Microsoft was adamant about bringing out this game on the Xbox instead
Well,
of delaying it.
Marketing is expensive, so if you don't
yeah,
deliver it,
that is
man, that
true.
shit
The amount
is
of
a
money that
big
goes into
pro.
marketing, and obviously it's important to market. You need to market. What was it? I think your marketing cost needs to be what was it? Equal to your development cost, something like that. I can't remember. Um, something like that along those lines, where you need to push out the game. You need to say, hey, this game is going live. This is what's happening with this game. You got to pay your sponsors. You got to pay everyone. You got to pay everyone to make sure, hey, this is what's happening with the game. And it's expensive to market, but it's just so damn important. But here's the thing, though. Microsoft really, really, like, you can see the difference between Halo 2 and Halo Infinite, where they were really pushing Halo Infinite. Even
Well,
EXP
not
tokens are
not really. I mean, yes and no, but they actually allowed the game to be delayed
right,
for better or
which is
worse.
weird to tell you the truth, because you could still find Monster. What was it? The 24 packs of Monster with Master
Oh
Chief
yeah.
on it, saying, "Hey, here's your double EXP if you buy this." And it's just so bizarre that Microsoft just bent the knee to public pressure because, well, they realized that, hey, we really messed up. But compared to Halo 2, where they said, hey, this game must release, this game
Well,
must be out.
they also are taking a look at where the franchise has been taken and
Right.
how well received it's been, and they really want to make sure that the game is
Well received
in the
how?
right order. Well, it wasn't well received. It was just received from from the community. Like Halo 4, in retrospect, is really good, but when it first came out, everybody hated it. Halo 5,
I remember.
that campaign is a mess. There is no following it. You can't piece it together. There's so many loopholes and there's so many like open ends.
You mean plot
Plot
hole?
holes. That's what I meant to say. Plot holes
Okay.
and open ends in the campaign. You're just like, well, who's the protagonist? We all know who the antagonist is. It's definitely Cortana. But who's the protagonist of the game? The game's boring. They added these unwanted Spartan abilities. Like,
Wait,
there's a lot wrong with Halo 5
no.
that
Let me.
that people didn't like. And like just Halo in general was going down the drain. Now they've got
I
Joseph Staten back in there, possibly Marty O'Donnell. He said he would love to work on Halo again. I would love for him to bring back Halo music.
Well, here's the argument I have for protagonist. There's two narratives in the story. It's just
Yeah,
two.
you have Master Chief and you have Agent Locke.
Right. They're the protagonist at the end of the day are the Spartans, but they have their own missions. We already know that Master Chief is doing what he wants to do, and Locke has orders where he needs to retrieve Chief. It's not so much about who's the protagonist. I don't think that's the right question, but at the end of the day, they teamed up together where Locke saves, what was it, Blue Team? That's Chief's
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
Yeah,
But here's the thing, like Master Chief, he was on this hellbent mission to recover Cortana, to be with Cortana.
what a simp, dude.
And dude, straight up. But Agent Locke is after the Master Chief.
Cause he,
You asked the developers who's the protagonist of the game, and they couldn't answer.
cause Master Chief went AWOL. So
Quote unquote went AWOL. He really didn't go AWOL. He had premonitions of Cortana, and then boom, here's Guardians. Which Guardians were cut content from Halo 3, by the way. If we're
oh really?
talking about cut content. Yeah, we were
Mhm.
supposed to have Guardian mini boss battles.
Well, I mean, look, if you look, even with Master Chief in Halo 2, where he asks permission to leave the ship, he needed to ask permission. That's how the military structure works. It's all hierarch. It's in the hierarchy, where you got to
Yeah,
ask the guy above you to do this thing, and then they give you permission. Master Chief didn't have the permission just to go out and do what the hell he wanted, uh, like that. That's why Locke was sent to go after him.
Yeah, but at the same time, Agent Locke had his own agency to question whether or not he should have gone after them in the first place.
Right, and that's the thing. The story started off with Chief knowing that something was wrong, but
Yeah.
he couldn't articulate it. And then he just went off on his own. He's decided, hey, I'm gonna do my thing, which people are saying, oh, he's the chief. He maybe they can give him a slide for this. No, you gotta have your rules. No one can be above the said rules. So in this,
You're a deserter at that point.
basically, so I could see why they sent Locke, but yeah, there comes a human element of this where Locke was questioning parts of it. It specifically came out once Locke helped the Civil War in the Elite Planet, where he helped the what's his
The
name?
Sangheili. The Arbiter.
The Arbiter. He helped the Arbiter, and the Arbiter's like, dog, the only human like any of us respects is the Chief because he's a demon, and he sort of realized like, hey, maybe I'm not maybe I'm doing something not so right here, because he put things into question. He started questioning certain
Oh
stuff.
yeah, but at the same time, like, do you like the way that they ended Joel Mondama's reign of terror at the beginning of the game, just to cut him out, make a loose end closed?
I'm not sure. I have to replay the
At the
game.
very beginning of the game, it's Agent Locke and Joel Mondama and all
Yeah, I
these
don't
elites.
remember. Yeah, I don't
And
remember. I'm
it's
sorry.
all just to recover, I think, what's her name? Halsey. But the way that they kill off Joel Mondama, they just push him off the edge. Dies, pretty much.
Push me in the edge.
Hey
But
man, too soon. When did he pass?
oh man,
All I know is
But-
that when it comes to story and just the story doesn't feel the same when it comes to like Halo, the Halo trilogy, the original trilogy, which is why when Halo 4 was not so well received, the same thing with Halo Reach, and ODST, people were complaining about, oh, it's not a Chief game, it's not this, it's not that, and they're comparing it to, well, Halo 3, and you're like, what? Why are we playing this game? This game is a lot worse than Halo 3. They had to compare themselves to this titan of a game, and that's exactly what it is. It's a titan of a game. You can even look at God of War 4. It had to compare to the masterpiece that is God of War 3 and how amazing it was, especially the
Even though it was pretty
Yeah,
short.
right.
but God of War 4 was well received by the community.
because
Halo 5 wasn't.
because it did so well.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? You guys know Dante, right? The
Dante?
Team Ninja.
Oh.
No, Dante.
Dante?
The
No.
the DMC Devil May Cry game, the one before the actual Devil May Cry
Oh,
5.
right. The where
Yeah.
it just said DMC on it.
Yeah, well, DMC Devil May Cry. Yeah, that was the full
Yeah.
title. It's sort of interesting because the way how you guys described it, you guys are bringing up the fact that, like, well, they tried making Halo games without the Chief because they wanted to show that we can make a game in the same universe and doesn't have to be
They
the
were
same
world
protagonist. And it was world building, and people, and you brought up the fact that, like, it felt like they had to put Master Chief in the game at some point so players would be, like, kind of interested. It's sort of the same thing with DMC Devil May Cry. Like, a lot of people really don't like Dante because he's this arrogant asshole who completely missed the mark on what made the original Dante entertaining or charismatic, But if you look up the original idea of DMC Dante, he was nothing like it. He was more quiet, more self-centered. It was more of a psychological thing of the demons he was fighting. It was meant to be more like a completely different take on it. But what people complained about was that, oh, this isn't the Dante I liked. So what Team Ninja had to do at that point was said, okay, people want that Dante. Well, what is Dante like? Well, he's an asshole. We need to make this guy an asshole. We need to make him arrogant. We need this and that. But they missed the mark. Dante in the original series, up to even Devil May Cry 4, this motherfucker gets stabbed in the chest and he just brushes it off and he's like, all right, kid, try again. And then he'll fucking throw confetti and shit when he's about to kill someone or something. He's rude to assholes. That's what made him so charming. You know what I'm saying? But meanwhile,
glad they kept that DMC Dante's ad. Well, isn't he the same in Devil May Cry 5? Where
nope.
No?
Nope. Nope. That is not canon. That never happened.
Oh wow.
To Capcom, yeah, you guys don't understand. Like Devil May Cry up to 3 was great. 4 was phenomenal, but the biggest complaint with Devil May Cry 4 was that it was clearly rushed. You literally play the entire game as Nero up to the end, and then you play as Dante, the best version of Dante, mind you.
Yeah.
And then later you literally play the same levels backwards. So people complained about it, saying like, the game is good and all. You had a great formula here, Capcom, but try like pacing the game out better, not making it feel like, going back and forward, you know what I'm saying? So Capcom kind of like threw their hands up, said, well, we can't really do anything with the franchise. The franchise is kind of dead. Let's give it to a third party. And then later Team Ninja came along and they made their version of Devil May Cry, and people hated it. Not only because that they hate Dante, they also hated the story, which was god-awful. It was a reboot, but also trying to be the origin story, which Devil May Cry 3 already did that in the first place. And when Devil May Cry came out, that was why it was such a big fanfare, because not only was it Capcom making it, it's a sequel to Devil May Cry 4, and Capcom completely doesn't acknowledge DMC Dante, except ironically in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Don't know why they added that as an alternate costume.
So it's basically much like you said with the Halo games. They were comparing this titan of a game when it came to these new games that were coming out, their successors, and people's views were sort of skewed. You can look at when Halo 3 ODST that came out, which explained more of the story, more of the world building when it comes to Halo 2. In Halo 2, the Covenant invaded Earth, right? Halo 3 ODST takes place during that timeline, which is why the name is confusing, where it says Halo 3 ODST.
3 ODST.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's because they used the same engine as Halo 3 instead of it being Halo 2.
Right.
And plus, it was more treated like an expansion, not meant to be like a full-fledged
But it basically
And
felt
that's
like
exactly what it was going to be. It
Yeah.
was an
until
expansion.
Microsoft said, "No, you got to charge us at $60."
Yep.
and not only that, but with that namesake, it felt like a prequel, but not really, because after Master Chief does whatever he needs to do on Earth, he leaves Earth to do other things. So I just feel like ODST is my favorite campaign, period, because of its change of nature, on its its ability to really bring out what happens when Covenants invade a world. You can see the audio logs in the well, they're optional.
Sadie's story.
You see the story of New Mombasa before the world got invaded.
Funny about those things is they're pretty much like a parallel to remember I Love Bees?
I Love Bees? No, I don't think so.
ilovebees.com.
Oh yeah, I remember.
The ARG.
The ARG, yeah. I Love Bees. I remember that. That was like a thing in the trailer where, like, in the bottom they would show you this website.
Yeah, it's instead of it saying Xbox.com, it said ilovebees.com, and it was an ARG to figure out. There was like this huge arcing story that they solved, and I forgot.
You know what an ARG is, right, Marcos?
I'm lost. No.
Okay,
alternate
you remember
reality game.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Let me give you a good
Right,
example. You play BioShock 2, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember the guy in the audio logs? He had like a colored picture. I forgot his name, but he's looking for his daughter.
I remember. Oh, right.
That was an ARG. That was a website promotion where it was a thing called Somewhere in the Sea, which is basically like a way to tell, like, hey, there's a thing called Big Sisters going around kidnapping little girls in the surface and bringing them back to Rapture.
So I Love Bees is just an extension of...
Oh, it's like a precursor to Halo 2. It was before Halo 2, and anybody who solved it was able to go to a movie and watch some, or play, what was it? They played alpha or beta version of Halo 2 before it came out.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah, it was, and they got some goodies and met some developers and stuff too, so it was pretty neat.
Like it's a really it's a really cool like marketing thing. Now mainly like indie games do it, but the only big issue with like these ARGs is that unless years have passed and unless someone keeps paying for the domains and stuff, it becomes kind of a pain.
Yeah.
It's just
But yeah,
the at
Somebody
least
did a mirror of I Love Bees.
yeah. Look, there's something
It's
in
like
the
I
sea.
Love Bees. Dot
Mark
co.
Meltzer. You remember Mark Meltzer?
I'm bad with names.
And Mark Meltzer. He was like the only guy with a color picture in the whole
Yeah,
Bioshock
yeah,
2.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's an ARG essentially. It's when you use the real world as a form of marketing to, get you involved in the in game. Or like there's like an indie game where it's like you scan a QR code and then that QR code leads you to a website and then you got to figure out a fucking code in the game or something and then you get a code for something
Yeah, it's
else.
like
It's
Cicada or when YouTubers do it, like with Markiplier's freaking what's this thing? I can't remember. Matt from Game Theory did something similar as well. Yeah, stuff like that. I like stuff like that where
So there's actual um, there's some haikus and stuff that were in I Love Bees that ended up making the cut in Halo 3 as dialogue from Cortana's lines.
she just really likes those bees and then she directed the bee movie.
Hey,
She wants to fuck a bee.
the
It's
movie's a
pretty cool though.
masterpiece.
I mean, like it's a part of history. They said it wasn't canon, but it ends up being canon later on. And the way that people had to progress was to go to payphones, and then they would receive a phone call and answer questions.
Oh man, this is a fun like rabbit hole to fall into. You find so many weird, spooky, shady shit. I remember this one ARG where,
But like in
this is
Halo
before-
3 ODST, you go up to payphones for Sadie's story.
Oh, I thought you meant like actual payphones, like in real
No,
life.
well, yeah, you did have to go to actual payphones in real life, but then
Oh,
in contrast to Sadie's story, you have to go to payphones in the game in order to progress through the story arcs. And if you notice
Gotcha.
on Halo 3, a lot of people make a lot of parallels to this. In Halo 3 ODST, when you're picking up the story arc of Sadie's story, it's not chapters, it's circles. Because it's the circles of hell. It's actually
Oh.
the sins of the 9 sins.
The seven sins, the seven deadly sins.
Seven. I think it's either 7. I think it's the 7 deadly sins. Because
gluttony.
yeah. So like you know how each sin has like layers to each one.
I was about to say like Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, it's similar. Well, once you hit the 8th one, when you're doing Data Hive, that one's of treachery. And then at the end of the legendary ending of Halo 3 ODST, you see Truth in Data Hive.
Okay.
Because he's treacherous. He's going to betray, the Prophet of Truth and the Prophet of Mercy.
Okay.
And there was a lot of parallels between those two, like the 7 deadly sins and Halo 3 ODST.
Okay. I just. Oh wait! Don't forget about the last one, betrayal, where.
Yes, and betrayals is the last story arc of Sadie's story, when the guy that she's in ODST, the guy that she had been working with to try and take down the Mombasa department of police, how it was corrupt, and the guy tried to do things
It's
to her.
Mombasa. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you said Umbasa,
No, I
like
said
the demon soul
Mombasa.
god.
I said Mombasa.
Yeah, I just.
At the end, he turns on her.
Yeah, and not only that, you get the last audio log after he betrays you, after a police
Yeah.
guard betrays you after the hive, and then he said, in order to collect the last log,
You
need
have to go
collect-
into
You need to collect
the
all
other
the other
mission.
ones. You need to collect
Yeah.
all the previous ones. But if you arrive to
And-
that part of the game with not all of them, like I think there were like 53 audio logs. If you
there's a lot.
Right. If you the mission still plays the same with the hive and the police, where if you only had a couple of audio logs, you still see the police, you still see the cop, and he tells you, "Hey, I'm gonna stay behind here, and
Hmm.
I'm just gonna do my own thing." And then you're like, "Oh, okay." Then you just leave him. But if you collect all the audio logs, and then he says the exact same line, but then you're able to follow him. The door stays open for you to follow him.
He takes you to an icy room.
Yeah, and then he betrays you.
Yeah, then he'll betray you, and that's the cop.
The same cop who betrayed Sadie.
I think so.
I know Sadie. Wait, she doesn't end up dying in the invasion. I know
No,
I know she just
she
ends up
doesn't.
just escaping and stuff, and she's still alive.
Yeah.
But all I know is that was quite interesting, which is funny. Like, you just saw this ODST, the soldier that is right below a, what do you call it, a
A
Spartan.
Spartan.
He's taking on. You're next to him, and you see him taking on all of these monsters while you're just somewhat support. He's doing his own thing. He's a beast, and he doesn't talk. And yet here you are.
Yeah, I was about to say, is he a silent protagonist in that game?
Yes, he.
Okay.
The rookie is.
Yeah,
a
the
silent
rookie is. Yep.
They gave him a name, but they never like. Well,
It's the same
more
thing
like
with Halo Reach, where your character Noble Six, you are a silent protagonist, but
No,
everyone
you're
else.
not.
Noble Six, yeah.
No, he's not. He has lines. He speaks.
I don't remember seeing a line whatsoever.
He speaks kind of like how John speaks in cutscenes.
Really? From what I remember, he's mostly.
Doesn't Chief
No,
talk?
Chief does talk.
talks.
Talks a lot.
Yeah.
But Noble Six, barely.
Noble Six speaks.
uh,
He speaks. It's not a lot, but he does. He does talk.
He does emote. He does acknowledge the
No,
situation. He does.
no, he talks.
Oh, he has full on
I
conversation.
don't know about
Like-
conversations.
like-
I know he nods his head and all that stuff, but I
No,
never.
like when Halsey, I just replayed Reach here recently. When Halsey hands him Cortana, she says, "Do you have her, or do you have it?" And he's like, "Yes." And then she says, "Say
Yeah,
the
but-
words for me. I have it." And then takes Cortana.
Let me
and
see.
then there's also at the beginning of the campaign.
I
where,
have it here. He's got in total like he just says one sentence. That's really it. That's all.
But he has lines. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
he
I'm not
actually
talking about-
has
I'm
has
just-
dialogue.
These are just like responses. I was assuming more of like actual like conversation. Like no, he just says, oh, someone says go do this, and he says yes, I'll do it. Like stuff
Okay.
like
Yeah,
that.
no, but at the end of the game, right before Lone Wolf, he talks to what's it called? To Commander Keyes.
After Keys tells Six that Hazley says Six can be trusted, he says, "Not just me, sir." That's all he says. In the
No.
Pillar of Autumn, it says after
The
Keys
Pillar
tells.
of Autumn. Yeah.
Yeah, it says after Keys tells Noble Six that Halsey said Six could be trusted. His line, he only has one line that says, "Not just me, sir." In the Pillar of Autumn, he has four lines: "Sir, you." The next one is "Done." "Not just me, sir." And lastly, lastly is the negative. "I have the gun. Good luck, sir."
Man, he has
Yeah.
such a way with words.
So
Yeah, he has the punchy one-liners, just like
He has a
like,
silver
silver
tongue.
tongue, dude. All I'm saying
just
is
like
like
Master Chief.
even in ODST, this guy, it's betrayal, right at the very very
Oh,
end.
look right here, personality and traits. Noble Six. I aim to please.
There you go. But even then,
That's
like
one of
with
his
Halo
lines.
3 ODST, which is cool. I didn't know about the whole, what was it? The freaking sins, which sort of
ARG?
makes sense. No, the whole the whole seven sins.
Seven.
Oh,
yeah, the seven-
Because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
remembering the audio logs, and I can remember seeing Rage, obviously, Gluttony when it came to that dude
Yeah.
who sold shish kebabs. When it came
Yep.
to now it's starting to make sense. I don't remember where Lust is. I can't quite recall Lust. Maybe, but all I know is that that's quite nice. That's honestly like pretty cool. I didn't know about that. That just makes the optional audio log a lot more interesting.
It definitely
you know
adds,
gaming?
It adds a lot to.
Did you know gaming? So
It adds a lot to the story arc of ODST.
it makes it seem a lot more interesting. But again, Daniel, like I said before, that I would agree with your whole statement with Devil May Cry. People are just comparing games with one another, which is why
Yeah.
I think Halo 4 and Halo 5 received hate as a Halo game. But if you just saw Halo 4 and Halo 5 as a standalone game, they're great games. They're nice games.
Yeah.
But you have people who've played the original Halo, the original trilogy, who've played the Halo Wars, who have played ODST, who have played Halo Reach, and they're like, look at all this. People gave hate to ODST and Reach because they weren't Master Chief games, which I get why they wanted to do that, but the games were still awesome, narratively
Yeah.
speaking.
Yep.
And
Even though there was some canon conflicts, like Master Chief being on Reach helping fight
Right.
against the Covenant,
right,
but it ended up being in Halo Reach that he was sitting on the Pillar of Autumn already in
Yeah.
Cryosleep.
in Cryo Sleep, right. So stuff like that, like I get, but like Halo 4 and Halo 5, if you see it as a standalone game, it's not a bad game. It's actually quite an enjoyable game.
Well, Halo 4 is, retrospectively speaking, is a much better game than Halo 5 is. Like, if we put on our retrospective goggles and we look back at Halo 4 and we play it again, we realize the story's actually not as bad as people portrayed it to be when it first came out.
Was that the last Halo game with like the original Bungie team, or is
No,
that like?
that was one of the very first. So it was after Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary,
Okay.
which was the very first game that 343 took on.
Yeah.
Okay, but that was that's just a remaking the original game though.
Well, no, Halo CE Anniversary came out after Reach.
Yeah.
And that was the very first game that 343 came out with. Then the follow up was Halo 4 the next year.
Yeah, but I'm talking about more like story wise. Like, what was the last Halo game that the original developers were?
Halo Reach.
Okay, because that's to me, like, as someone who's barely touched the Halo franchise, like Kenny said, that like the Halo franchise was kind of already at a decline. Like Halo became like the next Call of Duty. It was like, okay, another Halo game. There wasn't that like passion, and it felt more like that corporate Microsoft said, hey, we need another Halo game. We don't care what we're gonna do with. We just need another one.
Right.
And I see what you're talking about, because like, to be honest though, like I did not give a shit about Halo, but Reach was definitely the peak. As someone who's never gave a shit about Halo, knew about Halo, and then when I heard about 4, 5, whatever was coming out, I just kind of
Halo Reach wasn't well received, but the peak of Halo
was it mainly for the multiplayer, for the new skills they added, or the armor.
Yeah, the freaking armor lock, the jetpack, the sprint.
I remember that was like the biggest divisive thing about
the
the game. I remember that was either people really love it or they really
suit
fucking hated
abilities
it.
and all that stuff. Yeah, that was one thing that a lot of people had issues with. Like, especially sprint was the biggest one that they had issues with. Like, hey, these are Spartans.
Well, it's because it affects the golden triangle.
Explain.
It was the three pillars, pretty much. It was.
Is it like Archer beats Horseman, Horseman beats Swordman?
No, it was movement, guns, and grenades.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean.
That's the triangle. That was the three pillars that made the game good. That was the reason why people didn't like sprint to begin with.
Because it made movement bigger.
Because it took away grenades, and it took away guns, like shooting. You can't shoot or throw a grenade when you're in sprint.
That's true.
Well, I think the grenades were more of an issue, but I thought the issue came not so much about the three parts, the Holy Trinity.
The Golden Nacho.
I thought the problem came where sprinting is a mode where like you feel like they should have already been sprinting because they're Spartans. They're what's the difference? Oh, I have to look it up. But they're not just human anymore. They have parts inside of them that make them superhuman. That's why that's why I'm trying to figure out that, hey, sprinting feels like it should have already been part of the game because of their super soldiers, but they added that, which made it seem like sort of weird. Why would you make this into an armor ability and not just a passive thing?
A natural.
Yeah.
I mean, do they sprint later in later
Yeah,
games?
in Halo 4 and 5, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they added sprint. The issue is that 343 was trying to make Halo of Duty
Yeah,
modern
that's what I
ops
figured.
24/7, and
And now then the Call of Duty games became in the future. Now it's like, oh
Well, I mean,
fuck.
yeah, pretty much that was around the same time that Halo 4 came out.
Yeah.
When Halo was trying to be Call of Duty and Call of Duty was trying to be like
Yep.
Halo.
Well, people
Ironic.
were looking forward for like futuristic stuff because if you looked at how great Black Ops 2 did.
Titanfall.
Black Ops 2 did amazing when it came to multiplayer, that people were thinking, oh, so this futuristic stuff, they like it. Let's see how much further we can take it. And obviously, it took 3 years to develop a Call of Duty game. So,
Right.
once they were already, the population was already tired of futuristic freaking movements and all that stuff. You had 2 more companies who were still developing futuristic games, and they're like, well,
Yep.
I guess we're stuck here. But I liked Advanced Warfare, to tell you the truth, even though it wasn't so much well received. I liked it. It was whatever.
I have a couple friends that like it, and I definitely I didn't mind it. It's not a game I would like to go back to anymore.
Maybe for zombies.
I would have liked it if the servers were better.
Yeah,
That's all I could say.
That's true. Well,
like,
even
Modern Warfare
But,
2019 definitely made the bar real high for COD games.
they have server issues.
Yeah, they might have server issues, but I'm just talking about in general, like the game itself, like
Oh, just
Like
gameplay.
how it was received and everything, like like
And get
audio,
used to skill-based
gameplay,
match-
everything.
Oh,
Get used to skill-based matchmaking, guys, because now it is a permanent
yeah.
thing.
So here's the thing, though.
So we got Halo Infinite.
That's the thing, though. Even with skill-based matchmaking, that doesn't bother me. I would love to be put in places where they're at my level or slightly above my level, where I can obviously make improvements on my gameplay. I don't mind that. Yeah, but the parts that I can't control is this issue. If someone has a different connection speed where he turns the corner and sees me first and shoots me, I can't control that, and I ended up dying a lot more.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, you know what? How you could fix this? Just make a rank system since
Yeah.
Halo 2.
or just
Yeah.
do
That's
a,
it. That's all they have.
do it the other way, where instead of rank system, you have league play like Call of Duty Black Ops 2 did.
League play? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, like a ranked playlist, pretty much. Like you have social and
Yeah.
ranked.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if you want to do skill-based matchmaking, make it for skill-based matchmaking modes. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're gonna go ahead and skill-based matchmake ourselves out of this episode because I think we're done for the day, guys.
Disconnect like in most skill-based matchmaking games where you get into a sweaty lobby. Just disconnect.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
already got like 3 dudes rushing into me right now, about to kick my
About an
ass.
alt F4.
Yep, Alt F4, boys. But yeah, so I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap, guys. You guys have anything else left to say before I give our parting wishes?
Remove skill-based matchmaking.
Cloud gaming. I'm looking forward to see what they do with the patents that Google Stadia is releasing. So that's something to look forward to.
Let's hope it doesn't
yeah, just
suck.
hope it doesn't suck.
But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this new episode of the DKM podcast. You guys know already that you can follow us on Twitter to get all the updates and know about whatever projects we have up in the works to get started in 2021. Remember, you always can listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, anywhere that you can listen to us. And we'll keep making new episodes as the year goes on. I want to thank everybody who's been listening, sharing, and contributing by just being on the show and just listening to us whenever we talk. So I want to go ahead and say good night, take care, and please be safe, and have a good one. See ya.